Good afternoon. What's happening?
Good afternoon.
I'm so excited that everyone is here. All righty. And because Zoom is what Zoom is, I got to pay attention to this waiting room for just a smidge longer. So bear with me. All right. So thank you so much for joining us as we start a brand new session of Ignite. And this brand new session will be, for those of you who have been through this course before, a lot of the content may be the same, but we're going to kind of change it up and make sure that we throw you some new stuff and some new paths forward as well, including some masterminding in breakout rooms, mostly because I've now learned how to use breakout rooms as a part of Zoom. So now I'm going to push you off into breakout rooms every chance I can possibly get, just to show you how cool I am. So for those of you who do not know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Rick Scott. I am the operating partner and principal broker, as well as the director of education for the Keller Williams Market Centers in Ridgefield and Danbury. And I am so excited to have you here with us today. For those of you who are returning, it's lovely to see your returning faces. I will say that this is probably my favorite course to teach. And it's my favorite course to teach for a bunch of different reasons. The main reason, however, is that it's a course that is based on systems and models. It's a course that's based on fact, right? It's a course that has its roots in this book, which, if you can see that, it's The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It doesn't look like yours because mine's really old. I think this is one of the first 17 books that Gary ever published and sitting on my desk. But the ideas and the models and systems that are foundational to growing a real estate business are found in this book. And we're going to run through a lot of those together in the next 4 weeks. I do feel uniquely qualified to spend this time with you because at the end of the day, for 21 years, I have been a real estate agent, right? I'm not just some talking head that Keller Williams found to stand in front of you and deliver material. I have run my own solo business. I have merged that business with my business partner, who is still my business partner today, Debbie Orr, and run a partnership for a while. And then we grew that partnership into a sales team. Again, Debbie still runs that sales team that I still own part of, even though I don't have much to do with that anymore. And as that sales team grew, and we wanted some more, and we started to open real estate offices as well. And so I've done just about every different piece of this business. Oh, I'm also a real estate investor. So we check that box as well, right? So my point is, I'm going to bring you content, but I'm also going to bring you ideas. I'm going to bring you some shortcuts. Trust me when I say in 21 years, I have made every single mistake known to man. And I would rather you hear those mistakes up front from me so that you can shortcut your way around them. If you're anything like me, I was always looking for like the magic bullet, right? There's got to be a shortcut. There's got to be a way to get where I want to get faster. What is the magic bullet? Where do I find it? And what I have found over time is that the magic bullet lies in systems. The magic bullet lies in the model of business that you base your business on. And we happen to live inside of an organization that quite literally wrote the book on models to run a real estate business. So when we talk about content and we talk about models and systems, you have a choice, right? You have a choice. You could spend the next 4 weeks, because we're together for the next 4 weeks, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We'll talk about schedule in just a second. You can spend the next 4 weeks deciding that you already know it and you already understand how to push forward and grow a real estate business. Or you could decide that what we're going to put on the table for you has worked brilliantly for tons of people across the country to not only get started in real estate, but to grow really powerful business practices in real estate. And so I would encourage you to, whenever you want to start rolling your eyes at something I've said, or check out and decide, yeah, you know what, so this thing he's talking about, that's not going to be for me. I would encourage you to, instead of checking out, I would lean in. I would lean in and listen more intently to some of those things that make you a little uncomfortable. Because here's the thing, if I'm not making you at least a little bit uncomfortable over the course of the next 4 weeks, I am doing a very, very poor job, right? Growth lies in discomfort. You need to get a little uncomfortable. Remember, successful people are willing to do the things that everybody else decides are not worth their time. And so you have to make a decision, and I'm going to encourage you to make it tonight. Will you decide to move forward and do the do? Right? This is not necessarily a course of let's listen to Rick yammer on for 2 hours a night, 3 nights a week for 4 weeks. Although I do a lot of yammering, right? You will have plenty of that. But this is a course that says when you step back from the session that we've completed together, what are you going to do between 7 o'clock tonight and 4 o'clock on Wednesday? Because it's what you do in between that will define your success. It's what you do in between that will define how quickly you move it. For those of you who are literally just starting out, we're going to take the pulse of what the room looks like in just a minute. For those of you who have your license for 10 or 12 minutes, you have to decide how quickly you want to launch. For those of you who have had your license a little while longer, you need to decide whether what you've been doing for however long you've had your license has brought you to a place that you're happy with. Or would you like to be further along? Whether that means more enclosed units, making more money, growing a business with leverage so that you can still make the money you're making, but you work less in it, right? There's lots of different ways to build a business. You're going to have to start making some of those decisions. And so I encourage you, regardless of who you are on this call, whether again, you're brand new to the business or you're a seasoned veteran, decide that the time we spend together, you're going to just be all in. You're going to plug into the conversations that we have. Trust me, this is far more exciting when I ask a question and someone actually answers. Those of you who have taken this course before, you know that sometimes there's a question posed and everyone looks down. So I can see you, or at least most of you. So when you look down, I can still see you and call your name. Just so we're clear about how this kind of works, right? And when we pop you off into breakout rooms, right? Many of you don't know each other. Many of you have never seen each other and we'll be meeting each other in these breakout rooms. That's a whole reason we're pushing you into those breakout rooms, right? Because for the last couple of months, we've had an additional challenge in our world in that we've gotten into business with so many of you and we haven't really met you in person, right? Some of you were hired via Zoom. Some of you are now meeting the rest of the market centers via our Zoom calls each day, right? Many of you are meeting me for the first time now via Zoom. And so we wanted to at least have some kind of connection points going on until we can all be in the same training room again together. Make sense? All right.
Yes. Yes.
See, answers. I love when they answer. All right. Well, I'm excited to get started. Now, let me do this quickly. If there is anyone who is not yet in our system, which means you don't receive the emails from the Market Center each day, please just put your name and your email address in the chat box, because it probably means that you didn't receive the materials for tonight, right? Everybody who's in our system should have received materials from their Market Center earlier today. Now again, there'll be materials for each day. Some of it will be the actual Ignite materials. Some of it will be script work. Okay, Nancy, Nikki, just make sure you put your email in the chat box. And do me a favor, tell me, also put which market center you're affiliated with, because I see our team leaders are also on the call. So guys, if you could be watching the chat box, and if there is somebody in your market center who needs the materials, if you could forward it from your email to them, that would be spectacular. I would appreciate that. So the materials are on the way for those of you who do not have them. For those of you who do, we'll spend some time inside of them and then some time outside. One of the things when you've taught this course as many times as I have is you kind of figure out what inside of this material is filler. And so we always have to squeeze more in than we have time for. So I've chopped some things out. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's unimportant. It means that some of those things I'm going to ask you to kind of read through on your own while we're offline, and then maybe ask some questions about it in our next session instead of actually taking the steps of going through those materials or that particular piece of content when we're together. So the very first thing I want to make sure we do is this. I'm going to pop you all into separate breakout rooms, and you're going to have, let's see, how many are we? We're 36. Okay. So there's going to be 8 different rooms, 8 or 9 different rooms. So there'll be about 4 of you in each room. I want you to very quickly have a quick conversation and let each other know your name, how long you've been in real estate, and the one thing that you're looking to get most out of your time in this course. Ready? Those 3 things: your name, how long you've been in real estate, and the one thing you're looking to get out of this course. I am going to move you into your breakout rooms right now. Everybody ready? I'll see you back here in
Yes.
4 minutes. 4 minutes to just have a quick run through, so everyone has a minute to chat. Somebody write down the answers, and then we're gonna clear that when we come back. See you in a minute. Dan, can you still hear me? Wasn't sure if we got kind of locked out while everyone else was in the room, but I guess this room stays open and whatever. Oh, wow, you know what's cool? I can move people from a room that they're in into a different room. Once the rooms get set up, I have the capability of kind of moving them if for some reason somebody went into a wrong room. That's kind of neat. All right, people are making their way back, so we'll give them another 30 seconds to get back into the main room. All right, here they all come. All righty, welcome back. Wasn't that fun? All right, so I need like 3 or 4 volunteers. 3 or 4 volunteers. Tell me either what you hope to learn or what somebody in your room hopes to learn over the course of the next 4 weeks. If yours wasn't as exciting as you wanted it to be, but somebody in your room had a better answer, you can certainly steal theirs and use it. Just give credit.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, David.
Dave Lee here. So what Lisa and I learned from doing this is we cannot do Zoom rooms from the same room in our house.
And when we're in different rooms.
There you go. There you have it. That's a good aha. What else?
I'll go.
Hey, Christian.
How are you?
Good.
So I just met Patty and David. Patty looks like she's been in the real estate business for 10 years, and she recently became a realtor, full-time realtor per se. She was a referral agent before, so that's kind of exciting that she's taking initiative to be full-time. And also David, we kind of connected because he was in the restaurant industry, which I was a part of for 10 years as well. I think he's still involved, and he's learning to kind of get some foundation, some direction, and how to be successful.
Love it. Love it. What else? What else do you want to learn in the next 4 weeks?
This is Kristen Kruder, and how are you? I am excited to learn how to get started and set the world on fire in real estate. So
Excellent. Excellent. Anything specific or just foundational stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in it for the long haul now, and I just want to know, sort of step by step what I can do to put myself in the best position to have success.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Well, hopefully we won't disappoint in that respect. Who else? Martine.
Hi, Rick. So I was in chat room with Eric Durander and Francisco, and with Fernando, and we discussed that some of us want to gain more knowledge. Myself, I want to get to the next level. I wasn't able to complete Ignite last time because I'm a dual career agent. And with coronavirus out here, I'm still working from home, so it's more flexible and I could get it done.
I love it. I love it. I don't love the whole coronavirus thing, but I love some of the opportunities it has afforded us, right? Because if you weren't able to jump in before, you're able to jump in now. We're going to look for that silver lining. One more.
Rick, I'll go.
Go ahead, John, and then Barbara.
So for me personally, I'm looking to gain mindset because this is actually my 3rd time taking it this year. Even though it doesn't seem like that, it's been one of those weird years. But to me, it's like I had said, Steven was in the group, and I said you and Steven and all you guys, Dan, Deb, Jen, you guys have such an incredible mindset. I take that for granted, taking the course the first 2 times, but it's incredible how you guys power through your day, and you have such energy, and you're always this upbeat and positivity to you. And it really makes such a difference that's really what I'm like. That'll be my main focus in this course, and that and stealing that Wilson ball from you. But
look, my Wilson ball got me through 3.5 months of quarantine, being in this room all by myself when I was really the only person in this office for 3.5 months. So my Wilson and we got through it. He stays with me. He's alarmed, John, so don't try it. And booby-trapped at the same time. All right, Barbara, I think you had something to share, and then we're going to push forward.
Sure. I think a few of us in our group were just excited about keeping the momentum going that we've been able to garner these last few months. And I think Ignite is a great topper for this.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're here, Barbara. And just to sing your praises a little bit, Barbara's been through Ignite at least one full time before, and maybe partial times before. And what I've watched happen as Barbara entered into this whole twisted world of since March is all of a sudden Barbara's business started to skyrocket. All of a sudden, Barbara started to produce more than she had in the previous few months. Barbara, what do you think? What do you think did that for you?
You know, it's interesting. There are so many factors, I think, but I think probably the most important thing that happened for me was realizing that I had to do it. And so in some way that was good for me. Nobody else was, it worked out better for me that way. Just, really having to, it's like the only one who can do it is me. And it was uncomfortable and very scary in the beginning, but I loved the opportunity, and I loved being able to help people find homes who are really looking for homes, who are trying to get, out of where they were. It was just a lot of fun, a lot of great people that I've met along the way. And it's very exciting.
Indeed. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I couldn't agree more, guys. If you didn't write down what Barbara just said, right, you could probably go home. We could finish class tonight and be done. And you would have gotten your one little pearl. If you really want something, you've got to do it, right? You want success in real estate. You want to launch or relaunch your real estate career. You want to move it from where it is to where you want it to be. You've got to do it. Right? We can give you all the tools, we can support, we can be a rah-rah system for you, but you've got to do it. And what's so exciting for me is to watch people kind of make that realization. Because I think I've signed more checks for Barbara in the last couple of months. Barbara maybe didn't realize I noticed it, but I certainly noticed, right? Now she's killing it. And it's just a matter of kind of waking up one day and saying, you know what, I really love this. I'm just going to go and do it. And that's what she decided to do. So congratulations, Barbara. We're excited to see your progress, and excited to see the powerful things that are going to come from you and for you in the next couple of months.
Oh, thank you.
All righty. My goodness. People keep knocking on that door. There we go. All right. So let's do this. Let's dive right in, and we're going to start our time together with a quick 90-second video. We do have some videos tonight. We're not going to be really video heavy. You will see probably 4 or 5 of them today, and then maybe one on Wednesday, and then I don't think we do videos again for the rest of our time together. But dive in when I pop a video on the screen. That's not time to check out. It's time to lean in and really listen to what's going on. Take some notes, because we will pop back and we will clear through the information in the video. Trust me when I say I wouldn't spend a minute or two on a video if I didn't think the information in it was clearly and concisely delivered for a reason that is helpful. So the first video we're going to take a look at tonight is from my friend and yours, Mr. Gary Keller. Let me grab that up for you. Hold on just half a second. Okay. Enjoy. I'll be back in 90 seconds.
Hi, I'm Gary Keller. This course will allow you to get off to a fast start you can build on. Because if you repeated the principles every 90 days for a year, believe me, you have an awesome first year. And just as important, you would have built the foundation and momentum for your entire career. It is practical, realistic, and easy to apply. It's about the fundamentals that determine your level of success in the business of real estate. From our research with top agents, we have found that they too started their careers with these fundamentals, and they continue to do them along with their teams to this very day. And it's not hard. It just requires a little focused effort, a few hours every day. Now, there is really just one way to achieve the goal. It's lead generation. Now, other skills are important, yet without leads to work with, your skills won't mean a thing. Dealing with business never takes precedence over what? Finding business. Never. Research shows that top producing agents make lead generation their #1 priority and the one thing they make sure they always get done. You can do this. And when you do, you will get the leads, the relationships, the experiences, the career, and the income that you want and deserve. Go get them, and good luck.
All righty. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, whoever was playing that funky music in the background to Gary. We so appreciate you. So what'd you hear? What'd you write down? What'd Gary say that turned your head?
Lead generation is the #1 priority.
Yeah, right. So lead generation is kind of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to have a little conversation around getting your mindset and your head right for business building today. And then end of today and for the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about where to find business. We're going to talk about where to find business inside of our kind of weird little bubble world. We're going to talk about finding business outside of the weird little Zoom bubble world. We're going to talk about all the different opportunities you have in terms of source of business, starting right away on Wednesday, so that you can dive into each of those opportunities, assess whether or not that's going to be a powerful place for you to start building from, and then start implementing. Lead generation is really about two or three pillars of business, right? You're going to find the 2 or 3 things that you're going to focus on that are going to bring you the most of your business most of the time, right? We're going to dive right into that. What else did you hear Gary say? Christian?
All right. Oh, you just calling on me?
No, you were unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Well, I guess I'll just go. Just kind of go back off what the last agent said. Lead generation is kind of what drives your business. That's your boat. That's how you're going to get, you have to generate leads, and that's how you're going to ultimately, hopefully get your goals and close transactions.
There you go. That's kind of in a nutshell, right? Here's the thing, guys. You could be brilliant real estate agents. You could spend all this time developing all these skills. And if you don't have a client because you haven't decided to generate a lead, well, what's the point of having all those skills, right? Being the best real estate agent on the planet doesn't do you any good unless you have people to work with. What else? 1 or 2 more things that Gary said. Go ahead, Lisa.
I'll go. I think as with many, many things in life, if you just put your head down and you keep plowing ahead and plowing ahead and plowing ahead, and you're consistent, and that it will reap rewards. And I think that's one of the keys to lead generation, is just doing it over and over and over and over again.
So true. Lisa said a really important word. She said the word consistent, right? So much of what we're going to talk about and build over the course of the next 4 weeks won't help you if you're unwilling to create a level of consistency with it, right? Lead generation done every once in a while doesn't build a business. Practicing your skills done every once in a while doesn't bring you closer to mastery, right? There's a consistency throughout business building that if you don't decide that that's important, you don't quite get where you're looking to go. Go ahead, Connie, tell us what you got.
Repeat the principles every 90 days.
Yeah, right. So build businesses, and when we start towards the end of today, going through what you need in terms of appointments to create the amount of money that you're looking to make in this business venture of yours, we're going to talk exactly about how to chunk it down to 90 days, 90 days at a time, right? You can control what goes on 90 days from now. You can't quite control what happens past that. So we're gonna teach you everything you need to know, focus on it for 90 days, rinse and repeat, right? So you build a business 90 days at a time. You succeed in business 90 days at a time, right? We're in Q4 right now. We're gonna focus on bringing you through the end of Q4 strong so that your Q1 income is existent. And then Q1, we start building for Q2, right? Because remember, in real estate, we're always 60, 90, sometimes 120 days ahead of our paychecks, depending on the type of business you do. Everything you do, all of your activities that you start today into tomorrow shows up 60 to 90 days from now, 90 to 120 days from now. One more? Anybody got one more thing that they heard from Gary? All right, I want to make sure that you heard this because it's a really important concept. He said the pursuit of new business always takes precedent, including over current business, right? The pursuit of new business always takes precedent, including over current business. That always freaks some people out when I repeat it. That's why I want to make sure you heard it. What does that mean? Why would that be important? Why would that make sense?
Basically, what he's saying is you have to set up appointments again for future business to keep the pipeline, quote unquote, moving, so that you're not just dwelling and sitting on existing business that's in the pipeline, because once that closes, you're paid and that's it. So he's basically saying continue to create more.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Right. And what happens is we get ourselves into I call it the roller coaster of real estate, right? I have all of this business and I'm focused entirely only on that business. And then all of a sudden it crests and you start to close all that business. But that whole time you were working only on that business, you weren't building any other business. And so now the roller coaster goes all the way down to the bottom and you wake up, you have your last closing, you look around and think, okay, well, now what? And now you have to start over again, climbing the upside, building and finding business. And what occurs then are big holes, big gaps in your income, right? So when you keep that lead generation process consistent, while you're also handling current business, right? It's not at the expense of current business, it's an and scenario, right? So don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into the trap of, oh, I took a couple of new listings and now I'm going to focus entirely on those new listings at the expense of everything else. Not a good business plan, right? You need to be moving those listings through the process of getting them sold and getting them to a closing while you continue to wake up every morning and look for additional business to replace the business that will close. Make sense? All righty. So in your materials, which look like this, you have Power Session 1, right? Again, that was emailed to you earlier today. And if you did not receive it and you haven't received it yet from when I mentioned this earlier, please just put your name and your email address in the chat. And we will definitely have somebody email that off to you. So if you still need that, please tell us in the chat. I want you to go to page number 9. I want to spend a little bit of time on the 6 personal perspectives. Now, again, this is a mindset conversation. So for those of you who are like, come on, man, let's move a little faster. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of real estate, please. You're going to have to wait just about 20 minutes longer because I want to make sure that we have a conversation around your head. Mindset around business building is probably more important than skills, right? Because with the right mindset, you will absorb skills faster. With the wrong mindset, you end up rejecting skills and kind of going off on your own. So there's a whole lot of people in the chat. Dan and Steve, if you could maybe take a look and see and get those folks forwarded. Some of you should have received it this morning, Christian, and Carrie, you should have received it via your email earlier today. Again, if you didn't, we're happy to get it to you, but do check your email because it went out to everybody in the Market Center earlier today. So page number 9 talks about the 6 personal perspectives. And the 6 personal perspectives were ultimately designed to answer the question, what is it that differentiates those who achieve at the highest level from those who don't seem to accomplish quite as much, right? What is it that differentiates people who achieve at the highest level from those who don't seem to accomplish quite as much? It's kind of a powerful question, isn't it? It's kind of a look in the mirror and make some decisions question, right? Because who has the power and the ability to change and create your results?
You.
Yeah, it's only you, right? It's not me.
Uh,
And for those of you on camera, some of you look up, some of you look down, some of you look to the left, to the right, do like a whole little Brady Bunch thing. Oh, look how much fun that is. See, when I say that, you're supposed to do it. Everyone's just looking at me like, does he really want me to look up? There we go. Here's the story of a lovely lady. All right, we'll move on from that. So what I'd love to do is just kind of walk you quickly through the 6 personal perspectives. And if you look on page number 10, somebody tell me what personal perspective number 1 is. Commit to what?
To self-mastery.
Commit to self-mastery. You got it. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick look at my friend Bruce Hardy talking with us a little bit about self-mastery.
G'day, I'm Bruce Hardy, and I'm committing to self-mastery. You know, this is one of the main 6 perspectives that I think we all need to focus on, particularly if we want to take our business and our lives to the highest level. You know, when I was younger and lived in Australia, a good friend of mine was a black belt in karate. He invited me to participate in karate, so I joined. I was a white belt, and after about 6 weeks or so, we were one day practicing sparring. And it was interesting because we were throwing a punch, relatively simple, straightforward punch. We both knew how to do it. The idea was that you would throw the punch and you would stop 2 inches from the other person's face. So my friend, the black belt, would do it, and he would snap, his gi would snap, and I had wind hitting me in the face, and it was just beautiful the way he threw it. Then it was my turn, and I got down and I went whack, and I watched my friend fall to the floor because I hit him instead of stopping 2 inches in front of his face. We both knew how to do it. He'd mastered it, I had not. I will tell you, I brought the same approach to my real estate business. I realized my focus had to be on listings. And what I did was, by focusing on my listing presentation, practicing over and over and over again, I was able to list over 250 homes a year. There's a wonderful saying out there, and that is, amateurs practice to get it right, professionals practice to never get it wrong. My question to you, are you an amateur or are you a professional? Commit to self-mastery.
All righty, thank you, Bruce. We appreciate that. What'd you hear?
Focus on listings.
Oh, I love that Daniel heard that. Is it Dan or Daniel, just so I know?
Eddie's fine. Daniel's good.
Okay. So please note what Daniel just said. Focus on listings. You want to create mastery around your real estate skills. You want to launch your business faster with more efficiency and ability to leverage. Focus on listings right from the start. Why is it that most agents who are new or newer to the business focus on the buy side and not the listing side? Any thoughts on that?
It takes a little more skill to do the listing side.
So there is a thought that there is more skill involved on the listing side. What else?
It's probably a little bit more easier to take a buyer out and select a property, like she just said. And it's probably more natural for someone to just say, oh, they want to buy, let me help them buy something. But I think it's good to go through both sides too, to kind of learn.
Yeah, 100%. Any other thoughts?
Competitive, very competitive.
Yes, and so Jing says that
Listings introduce you to more people.
the list side is competitive, right? And so let me offer this as a thought. What I will offer to you is there is no more or less skill needed to succeed on the listing side than there is on the buyer side, because you're just learning a different set of scripts. And what's fascinating to me is that for the longest time, real estate agents have kind of tricked themselves into thinking that the buy side is either easier or faster or less expensive, or I don't have to do as much or know as much or practice as much. If you're doing the buy side right, that's false, right? If you're doing the buy side wrong, well, then maybe that's true. So if we can agree that both sides require skill and both sides require practice and both sides require confidence, we're going to talk a little bit about confidence in a minute. Why not just dive into the side of the business that creates more opportunity for you right from the beginning? I'm just putting it out there. Keep it in your heads. If you're going to choose a path towards mastery, well, why not choose mastery as a listing agent? Why not choose mastery towards the side of the business that will ultimately help you grow your business more efficiently and more quickly? Something to consider. All right, personal perspective number 2. Somebody read that one to me. What does it say?
Commit to the 80-20 principle.
So commit to the 80-20 rule. Commit to the 80-20 rule. And before we move forward, ladies and gentlemen, I do just want to introduce the songbird of Ignite, Ms. Donna Gilbert, who's as close to a groupie as this course has. I think this is minimally Donna's 10th or 12th or so, 15th, 20th. All right, we're closing in on triple digits, I think was what she's saying, right? So the good news is if I drive home tonight and get hit by a bus, you will have Donna for the rest of the time because she can just kind of step on in and go. We're always happy to have you, Donna, and what you contribute. So welcome back. So the 80-20 rule, right? So the 80-20 rule is really important to understand. And that means, what that says is that not everything is as important as everything else, right? That's my version of the 80-20 rule. Not everything you do is as important as everything else. And so what I'd love to do with you for the next 5 or 6 minutes is outline what the 20% of a real estate agent's world looks like. Would that be helpful? The 20% being the important stuff. The 20% being, the 80-20 rule says that 20% of your activities create 80% of your results. Right? 20% of your activities create 80% of your results. Now, some of you are thinking, maybe I'm doing the wrong activities as part of my 20%. That could well be, right? If your results aren't where you want them to be, it has nothing to do with the results. It has to do with your activities. You've got to look back and say, okay, what am I doing on a daily basis? Where am I focusing my time? Because the things we're going to put on the board here are going to outline for you what your calendar should look like. I will tell you that when I coach real estate agents, the very first thing I ask when I sit down with a new client is, hey, do me a favor. Tell me where you think you have opportunity and where your struggles are. And the second thing I ask, once I hear where they think they're at, is, okay, great. Do me a favor, take out your calendar. Show me your calendar for the last month. And sometimes I get a blank stare back. I mean, what do you mean? Show me your calendar. Okay, well, I think we've now diagnosed the issue, right? Because if it isn't in your calendar, it doesn't exist, right? And so if it's not in your calendar, here's the other thing I've learned about putting things in writing in a calendar, whether that be a piece of a book or online, your phone, whatever, however you're keeping track of your world. You make time for the things that you believe are important, right? You make time for the things that you believe are important. And so sometimes I'll have said agent show me their calendar, and it's very easy to quickly diagnose what they think is important, where they're spending their time, right? And sometimes it's because they're not spending enough time on the business of the business. And most times it's because I don't get to see much lead generation, devoted lead generation activities in someone's calendar, right? Let's be clear about something before we take another step forward. You are in the lead generation business with a specialization in real estate, right? You are not in the real estate business. You're in the lead generation business. When you wake up every morning, the question you should be asking yourself is, what am I going to do today to list another property? Who am I going to talk to today to see if I can assist them to buy, sell, or create wealth by investing in real estate? Those are the questions. Not how am I going to fit in the 3 buyers I need to fit in this afternoon, right? Those are secondary questions. That's just the process of getting to the finish line, right? You've got to wake up and business build first. Some of you from other businesses, from other industries, call it client acquisition, right? Or business development. There's a whole lot of different names for it. We're just going to call it lead generation here. So let's run through and figure out what the top 20%, and you're going to have to write this down because it's not in your book, the top 20% activities for real estate agents are, which ultimately means these 7 things, there are 7 of them, should be what's filling up your calendar most days, at least most days that you work. Who wants to give me number 1? And trust me, everybody on this call knows enough from what we've talked about and what Gary's talked about in the 30 minutes or so we've been together, or more, to get this number 1 right. What's number 1 on the list? Go ahead, Raquel.
Contact your sphere.
So broaden that a little bit. Contacting your sphere is a version of what?
Lead generation.
Lead generation. So lead generation is 100% right in terms of the first activity that you need to focus on. The second activity goes hand in hand with lead generation. What is it?
Lead follow-up.
You got it. Lead follow-up and conversion. Lead follow-up and conversion. Now, for those of you who this is way too small, it doesn't matter because my handwriting is terrible, so you couldn't read it even if you were sitting in front of me anyway. So I'm just going to keep reading them out loud so you can jot them down for yourselves. So number 1, lead generation. Number 2, lead follow-up and conversion. What's number 3?
Appointments.
Appointment.
Oh, appointments. You got it. Appointments, and we're gonna get to appointments in just a minute, and I'm going to help you work through a formula that will give you the number of appointments you need to create the income that you desire. So number 1, lead generation. Number 2, lead follow-up and conversion. Number 3, appointments. Number 4,
Close.
Negotiation.
so contracts and negotiation.
Contract.
Yep, contracts and negotiation. When you think about it, we're kind of just stepping you right through. You got to find the lead, then you got to create the lead. You have to have an appointment with the lead. You have to write a contract and negotiate the contract with the lead. And then you get to what, Christian? You just said it last time.
Close.
Right, closing. So closing's number 5. Number 6. You're kind of doing it now.
Productive education.
So yeah, it's education, practice, and role play. Education, practice, and role play. That's number 6. With adult learners on the Zoom call, I just lost half of you. Are like, okay, role play? Yeah, I think I'm out. Trust me when I tell you, if you will practice with each other, you will sell more houses more quickly than those of you who refuse to do it. It's just a matter, it doesn't have to be weird, it doesn't have to be long, but if you will just practice with one another, in other words, role play, you will move further faster than those who choose not to. And number 7, last one on your top 20%.
Money management.
Money management, you got it. Money management. We want to make sure that the money you make actually is money that you keep. So here's what's fun. If you take a look at the business of the business, activities 1 through 5 kind of are in a loop, right? You lead generate something new, you convert it, you have the appointment, you negotiate the contract, you close, and you kind of go back and do it again and again and again. If you will look at that as a loop, you'll actually have something in number 7 to manage, right? If you don't look at that as a loop that needs to constantly be repeated, you won't have to worry about number 7 so much. And that's a bad thing. You actually want that number 7 to show up, to have the money to manage. Here's what's fun. Who likes math? Everybody but me like math? So this top 20%, these are of all the activities that you could focus on, this is where we want you to focus, right? This is your 20. There are 7 things that make up that 20%. Do me a favor. What's 20% of 7? Rounded up. It's 2, right? It's 2. Is it any coincidence that the top 2 things on this chart, if you had to look for the 80-20 rule inside of the 20% of activities that you need to focus on to create consistency in your real estate business, is it any coincidence that the top 20% of the 20% are generate leads and convert the leads, generate leads, convert the leads, generate leads, convert the leads, generate leads, convert the leads? Here's what's fun. If you're looking at this from an opportunity to grow a business, which means maybe at some point you don't do everything or you don't do any of it because you have other people come in to do some of the do, right? Because you're looking at growing this business, having it continue to make money and then go off and sit on an island someplace to write your memoirs. If you master lead generation and lead conversion, and that's what you become the master of, most of the rest of this can be leveraged to other people. Most of the rest of this, somebody else can come in and do. People can take your buyers out. People can sign your listings up. People can attend your closings. You may have a negotiation manager at some point, right? But the one thing that most mega agents, as they start to grow bigger and bigger businesses, hold on to the longest because they're the best at it, because they spent the most time mastering it, are these top 2 things. They know where and how to generate leads, and more importantly, now I said that for a reason, more importantly than generating a ton of leads is knowing how to convert those leads, right? For some of you on this call, if you're not brand new to the industry, I would argue with maybe many of you, perhaps not all of you, but with many of you, that you don't have a lead generation issue. You have plenty of leads. You likely have a lead conversion issue, right? You've got to get better and better at converting those leads that you already have. Because leads, guys, oftentimes leads are just names, right? They're people. You're finding more opportunity. The skill comes into play into following up to a level that you can then convert and delivering an appointment out of that lead. So two separate skills, each as important. However, at some point, when you have this big bucket of opportunities in front of you, you've got to get better and better at the conversion skills. And we're going to teach you that probably end of the week or a week from tonight. All right, any questions on 80-20? All right, let's move through the rest of these quickly. So moving from E to P, I do want to show you an E to P conversation real quick with my friend Brenda Benson. So take a listen to Brenda real quick.
Hi, I'm Brenda Benson, and I've experienced moving from E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful. And I want to share a personal story with you about how that happened in my own career. As I entered the real estate field, I began to lead generate. And in my lead generation process, I just kind of winged it. That's what I call E. I was not purposeful. I lead generated when it was convenient. I lead generated when I was around familiar faces. I lead generated when I was in a familiar environment. And guess what? My results reflected the haphazardness of that lead generation. When I became purposeful, my results showed that purposefulness. As I looked to pick up the phone and make those calls, and I blocked time for my lead generation, my appointments went up. When my appointments went up, my actual results reflected those appointments. So I know in my own life, just through lead generating and knowing when I was in E versus when I was in P, that my results were different when I became a purposeful lead generator. And I know that can happen for you. So let me share with you 5 quick concepts that really helped me move from E to P. Number 1, focus. Focus on that 20%. Number 2, create strategies and action items that will support you staying in that focused 20%. Number 3, follow the model. The next item would be to install and implement the systems. Implement systems that support the model. And finally, number 5, be accountable. Make sure that you're tracking and you're looking at, as I was, the entrepreneurial piece versus the purposeful piece. So if you are willing to embrace these 5 quick concepts that I just shared with you, your world can change just like mine has. Are you willing to move from entrepreneurial to purposeful?
All righty, thank you so much, Brenda. What'd you hear? Boy, the people on camera are dropping like flies.
Be purposeful.
Yeah, be purposeful indeed, versus entrepreneurial. And just so we're clear, being entrepreneurial, right, is the idea of waking up in the morning and kind of just succeeding because, right? You kind of do the business the way you think the business should be done. It's doing what comes naturally to you, right? What I can tell you is that each one of us has that E, and each one of us can utilize that entrepreneurial style to create a level of success. Some of you will get further on that entrepreneurial style than others. Others of you will hit that ceiling of achievement faster in that E style. But at some point, each one of us bangs their head on that ceiling of achievement, and without actually making the choice to move from that, I can just kind of figure it out myself style of doing business, to a prescribed model and system that you do on purpose, your results start to flatline. I will tell you that I have had a coach for pretty much almost all the years that I have been in real estate. And I had a coach a number of years ago who I had her for a very long time. And about the 6th or so month in, we had a coaching call, and she said, okay, you said you were going to do this and this and this. Where did those things show up? And I just kept going back and back to, you know, I just can't seem to get past this point. I just can't seem to, and she kept pushing me back to, okay, well, what activities did you focus on to move past that point? And it was such a disconnect for me, because all I wanted to do was create different results by doing the same activities as I had convinced myself I needed to do, right? There's a version of that statement I just made that says, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity, right? Exactly right, Chelsea. Insanity. So are you willing to step back from the activities that you currently focus on and say, okay, perhaps there's something different I need to be doing to create better results. Perhaps there are things that I need to be focused on that I thought were unimportant that maybe are more important than I initially thought. The good news is there's no judgment to that making that change. There's only kind of that revelation of, if I'm here now and I want to go there, I'm going to have to learn a couple of things. I'm going to have to practice a couple of things. I'm going to have to be willing to do or say certain things to achieve at a different level, right? Any questions on E to P? E to P ultimately is a never-ending process. If you are growth-minded and an achiever, E to P is a never-ending process for you. Frankly, for me, that gets a little frustrating, right? Because it's like I have all these different channels in my business world, in my life, that I want to be moving ahead on, and I look at each of them from, okay, where am I? Where am I, in E or am I in P? And the answer is, if you're struggling to get to the next level on something, you're back in E. Even if that was a P at some point, you made a choice to be more purposeful. Well, after you do that purposefully for a period of time, it just becomes natural for you again. And it's that in and of itself turns into an E. And so now to go to the next level, you've got to find a new set of purposeful activities to focus on, right? But it's what growth is made of. So don't be discouraged by that. All right, number 4, learning-based is the fourth personal perspective. And being a learning-based individual is a pretty simple concept. You're either someone who decides to learn or decides they don't need to learn. You're one of those two people, right? You're either someone who shows up to something that you've heard a bunch of times or you've been to a bunch of times and says, how can I find, like in these 2 hours, how can I find a pearl that will help me to grow? Even though I've been through it a jillion different times, it's probably the same. He'll tell the same jokes, probably at the same time. Where's Donna? Donna, can you unmute yourself a second? You know, this is your like bajillionth time through this course.
Yes.
Tell us why? Why do you keep coming back?
Well, because I'm in a different place every time I listen to it. My business is in a different place. My growth level's in a different place. So when I hear it, I hear certain things. You know that there are times when I've said, did you just add that? Because I didn't hear it before. So you meet the teacher along the road that you're traveling.
Yeah, indeed. Well said. Well said. And so when you're learning based, that's the opportunity, right? Always green and growing, not ripe and rotten. Because ripe and rotten, as someone who just harvested the last tomatoes of the season, the ripe and rotten ones, yeah, they're nasty. And the birds peck at them. So make sure that's not you, right? Be green and growing. Be on my windowsill now, absorbing whatever you can absorb to continue to grow. All right, number 5, removing your limiting beliefs. We got just 2 more, and we're gonna move on. Look at that, we are right on time. All right, so limiting belief number 5, remove your limiting beliefs. Anyone want to take a stab at what that means? Removing your limiting beliefs?
Any beliefs that's like, I can't, or it's basically being open versus not open.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it, Christian. I like that. Open be it versus not open, right? Open to suggestion, open to coaching, open to possibility, right? Instead of deciding that won't work, right? Limiting beliefs, I'll tell you what, this to me, the simple version of describing a limiting belief is we sometimes are our own worst enemy, right? Our head stands in the way of our ability to achieve at higher levels because we start to create doubt and we start to create a story that says, if I do or say this, this is what will happen. When you really have no idea, right? We're going to start talking about scripts in a minute. A lot of people have it in their head that scripts make me sound robotic, or scripts make me sound manipulative, or scripts are only for the people who really are doing things at a high level. I don't know the scripts yet, so therefore they're not for me, right? Scripts won't work. Well, all of that around scripts is a limiting belief, right? You know how I know that? Here, but just by a quick show of hands, how many people have the thought that the last 50 or so minutes of what you've just experienced sounded robotic or manipulative or ineffective? It's just a script. Me teaching and instructing this course is just a script. And my hope is that my script delivery doesn't come across as scripted or robotic, that I'm addressing each of you like human beings address each other, right? Kind of rolling with the punches based on when I ask a question, you give me an answer. Your answers aren't scripted. I can't possibly know what you're going to say. But when you know your business well enough, it doesn't matter what someone says back, because you can place that into the context of the script at large and move forward, right? For those of you who doubt that or freaked out by that, that's just a limiting belief that you have to start to shed and get rid of. Trust me, I had it. I get it. I understand it. I've been there. Any questions on limiting beliefs? You know what I like to do with limiting beliefs? Ask yourself a question. And the question is what I think is true really 120% true? And can I prove it? Can I prove it? Is it really true? Or have I just filled my head with that? I'll tell you, a coach gave me that question one time, and I thought, what a weird question. And then I started to use it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go and do X. And then I started to back off and say, oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I this, maybe I that. Well, I'm going to give you a quick personal story of a limiting belief. I'll give you this story. I haven't told this story in a long time. So my first love and desire out of high school was not real estate. I didn't graduate high school and go off to college to own and operate real estate companies. What I did go off to college for was to be an actor, and Broadway was my chosen vehicle for those skills. And on my path to, never quite made it to Broadway. Before I left the theater, I made it right to an off-Broadway show, and then I hung up my whatever you hang up when you call it a day in the theater. But I did a whole lot of regional work, and I had done a show for this regional company in the tri-state area, and they were then doing a chorus line was their next show. And if of the triple threat disciplines, for those of you who know anything about the theater, there are 3 threats, right? The triple threat is the singer, dancer, actor, right? All 3 of those things. And I would consider myself an actor first, a singer second, and a dancer third, right? So of those 3 disciplines, dance was definitely the lower on my skill set. And a chorus line, for any of you who know that show, is for all intents and purposes a dance show where they do a whole lot of singing and a little bit of acting when they're not dancing and singing, right? And I thought, okay, well that's sort of interesting. And yet, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. And I got to the audition, and again, this is a company that I had worked for. I just spent I don't know, a number of months doing a show with them, and so they knew my skills. I knew them. I knew the director. I knew the people involved, and I showed up at the audition for a chorus line, and I sat in the back of the auditorium, and I was crazy nervous, like sweating, crazy nervous, and I'm like changing into my shoes to go and be called up, and I'm watching other people audition on the stage from the house. You want an example of limiting beliefs? I sat in those seats in the back. No one had seen me yet because I came in from the back and just sat in the back. And I watched what was going on that stage, and I made judgments about my own skill that forced me to then unchange out of my dance shoes back into my sneakers, put them in my bag, and I left. Because I was so intimidated by my own self-doubt that I was not as good as those people on the stage. And why was I going to put myself through that horrifying experience of actually having to show people that I didn't dance quite as well as I could do the other things? And I left. And I went home. And the next day, I got a phone call from the director. P.S. I felt terrible because I really wanted to do that show. Plus it paid, and so I kind of wanted a job as well, right? And I say that for a reason, because many of you, as we go through the next 4 weeks, will look at some of the things that we're asking you to practice or attempt or give a try, and you're going to want to pack up your shoes and leave. And you're going to feel badly about it, and you kind of also need to do it because you want the job, right? So I'm giving you this story as an analogy for what we're about to embark on together. I left. Here's what probably won't happen for you that did happen for me that taught me a huge lesson. In business, when you decide to step out and check out, the business doesn't typically find you anyway. As luck would have it, the director who worked with me, as I said previously, called me and said, hey, we didn't see you at the auditions for a chorus line. And I lied. I'm embarrassed to say, I lied. I said, yeah, I'm really sorry. I was not feeling well. I just, I just couldn't make it. And he said, well, it just so happens that we're still short men, and we really kind of had you in mind for this particular role. So how are you feeling now? And I thought, why do you ask? He said, well, we start rehearsals tonight, and we wondered if you would come by rehearsals and just kind of see if the role makes sense for you. And I thought, oh, man, I can't even get out of this if I wanted to, because now he's inviting me personally. So I said, you know what, whatever your face is, I'll be happy to come down. And I came down, and I stood in the back. And what I realized was, as I started to rehearse some of it, there were people on that stage who danced far worse than I did, right? And I started to recognize the fact that limiting belief, which literally almost cost me a job, was so powerful without it being real. Because once I was actually in that group of people, who, by the way, most of them knew me and were supportive of me, to say, no, Rick, you're doing that wrong. Here, it's this, and would show me, take me aside and show me. The director would say, you know what, he's not doing that right. Take him aside and show him how to do that. Long, dull, boring story short, they hired me for the role that they had kind of wanted me for, even though I did everything in my power to screw that up. All because I let my head allow my feet to walk out. As you dive into this business and this industry, there are going to be things that you don't like so much. There are going to be things that you think are beyond what you can accomplish yet. I'm going to challenge you that the definition of courage is to feel the fear and do it anyway. There is no courage without fear. There is no courage without doubt and nervousness and all that stuff. And if you're learning something new, especially as adult learners, guess what? We all push back on it, because as human beings, we have two things that are important to us. We want to look good and be right. And that's not me, and it's not Christian, and it's not Donna, and it's not Yenny. It's all of us, right? All of us as humans, we want to look good and be right. And what I will challenge you to do is have the success of your business be more important to you than looking good and being right, at least for the next 4 weeks. Because you'll find that you're going to start doing things and challenging yourself in ways that will move you forward faster. Because the second you start doing the dance and looking around, you say, these people ain't got nothing on me. Right? All righty, there's your limiting beliefs story. See, Don, I'm always good for a new story. I'm not sure you've heard that one before.
No, I hadn't heard that one. It made me cry a little bit, Rick. I'm sad to think that you walked out and didn't think you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can do everything.
Well, I appreciate that. And you know what? Today, it's funny because I was probably 19 or 20 years old, right? And so maturity and age solves so much of that. And yet, sometimes, again, as adult learners who are learning something new, all of a sudden, any of that stuff that we dealt with when we were younger, sometimes it creeps back in, right? And so all I'm saying is be cognizant of the fact that if it does creep back in, don't let it win. Just decide to move forward anyway. Page 13, number 6, be accountable. You have two choices. Personal perspective number 6 is to be accountable. The opposite of being accountable is being a victim, right? And so you have a choice to make stepping your way through the next 4 weeks. You can either decide that if it's to be, it's up to me, right? I get to step up and step into this and do the activities that we're outlining for you to dive into to create business and create income opportunities for yourselves, or you get to play the other side. And the other side, believe it or not, there isn't accountable and less accountable. There's accountable and victim. And I want you to be clear about that, right? Because I think that a lot of people like to play the middle ground. Well, I'm not going to be quite as accountable as I need to be to really have success and create the income I want in this industry. I'll be a little less accountable, but that certainly doesn't make me a victim, because that's not what I am. Except if you're not choosing self-accountability, you're automatically playing the victim card, right? Even if you're unwilling to recognize it, because it's two sides of one coin, and the coin doesn't ever land on the edge, right? It falls over one way or the other. So make choices about recognizing, look, if you are happy with the state of your life, the state of your business, the state of your income, the state of your results, who gets the credit for that? You do, right? If you're unhappy with any of those things, who gets to take responsibility for that? You do, right? Isn't that fun? Sometimes I wish I was 7. Because when you're 7, you go, whatever. It's not my fault. It's all your fault. Right? Recognize that there really is an opportunity for you to step in to being accountable. All right, guys. I was going to send you into some breakout rooms to discuss that and come back, but I think with time constraints, I'm going to skip that and we're going to jump into a conversation, a quick conversation on page 19, which is homework for you. 19 through 22 is a discussion about your big why. Let's just have a quick conversation around your big why. Big why is ultimately defined as the reason you get up and do the things that you do each day, right? What pulls you forward? What drives the bus? And I want you to think about what as achievers, what is it you're looking to accomplish and why? And get real clarity around that between now and Wednesday. Here's what I've learned over time. I get up each day to do what I do to make sure my bills are paid. Not a very powerful why. As a matter of fact, I have coached enough real estate agents to tell you that it doesn't pull people forward at all, because I have sat in front of people who are sobbing and crying and upset because they weren't able to pay their bills. And when I asked them about the activities they're focused on to create income, the discussion is, well, I'm not doing any of those activities. So if you're not doing the activities that you know, if you focused on, would drive your income and drive achievement, do you see that paying bills is simply not a large enough driver, not a large enough pull forward to actually motivate you to do it? Because far too many people suffer the consequence of what happens when you don't do the right activities consistently enough and still aren't interested in the activities. So what's that bigger thing? What else is pulling you forward? Right? Does it have to do with you? Does it have to do with your children? Does it have to do with your grandchildren? Does it have to do with saving the planet, saving the whales, contributing to charity, doing things in your church or your local community? Or what is it that is driving you forward? And just P.S., we're not talking, this doesn't have to be like Mother Teresa stuff, all of it. Sometimes big whys are more about you. Sometimes they maybe are a little selfish. Big whys don't have to be about others or about the greater good in general. They may be for you, but they may be quite selfish, right? It may be about you and your family, and that's okay. Figure out what that looks like. Read through that information. If you're interested in more information on the big why, I believe if you go to page 71, let me just verify that for you. It's either 72 through 77 in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Is more reading on the big why. So if you'll spend some time on that, and we'll talk about it when we first get back together on Wednesday, that would be spectacular. All right, want to talk about money? Right, we're laying the foundation for a business now, so let's talk about money. Does anybody on the call like to make money in real estate? Or
Yes.
get their license because they desire to make money in real estate? All right, so here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you to turn to page 23. It's 23 and 4 and 5. And you know what I think I'm going to do, guys? I think to make this make better sense, I'm going to, instead of writing this here, I'm going to write on the whiteboard, which means I'm going to turn off my camera for half a second. And let me bring the whiteboard up. Okay. Christian, just nod your head if you see the whiteboard. Okay, perfect. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to spend a little bit of time with you showing you how to turn your desire to earn income into the number of appointments you have to focus on a weekly basis in order to get there, right? There is not, making money in real estate is not accidental. There's a plan and a system underneath it that can be very predictable. And so I'd like to just walk you through it real quick. So the first couple of things you'll need is you'll need a couple of averages. You're going to need an average sale price for your business. You're going to need an average commission rate, which will give you an average gross commission income per closing. I'm going to ask you to just work with me and use some market center averages that will keep the math simple. If your numbers are higher or lower and you can prove it based on 2 years of numbers, then use your own numbers. For those of you who are brand new to the industry, just use these because they're market center averages. So we're going to use an average sale price of $400,000 and an average commission rate of 2.5%, which gives you an average GCI. If you multiply 2.5% by 400,000, every time you close a transaction, the gross income is $10,000. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Okay, so those are just some assumptions we're going to keep over here. Now, the other thing I'd like you to do is figure out, and we're going to use $100,000 as an income goal for you. If your numbers are different than that, once we finish this for homework, I'm going to ask you to spend some time on this formula. So if your number is 50,000 or 200,000 or 300,000, well then you run those numbers, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to run those numbers to see what your appointment numbers end up being. So $100,000 in income, let's just first gross that up to make sure that you're earning enough to pay your taxes. One of the things that you have to remember is that the money you earn as a 1099 wage earner is not all yours. You got to save 30% of it minimally out of every paycheck and stick it aside to make sure that you can pay your taxes. So we're going to gross this up, which means we're going to multiply this by 30%, right? Or 1.3. And so because we're multiplying that by 1.3, we get $130,000, which means we have to earn 130 to be left with 100 after we pay our taxes. Does that make sense? And again, these are not necessarily accountant audited examples. They're just okay. So now that we have this, let's go over here and we'll take that $130,000 and we'll figure out, in order to earn $130,000 gross, I need to have how many closings? Well, we have over here the average commission earned per closing of $10,000, right? So we're going to divide the $130,000 by the GCI to give us how many closings? 10 goes into 130 how many times?
13.
13, you got it. So this is 13 closed units based on that math. This is in a year. 13 closed units, we now have to convert the closed units to appointments. And I'm going to ask you to trust the fact that we've done the math, and for most people, unless you know your conversion numbers are different, again, and can prove it based on 2 years of numbers, we're looking to have you use a 4-to-1 ratio on the listing side and a 3-to-1 ratio on the buyer side. Now, for those of you who have just spent the last 3 or 3.5 months running faster than you've ever run before with the amount of business that's been out there and the pace of the market, those numbers likely seem a little bit low. And for the last 3.5 months, for most people, I would agree, they are low. And yet we don't know if the last 3.5 months are going to project forward and stay at that pace. So I'm going to ask you to build your model on something more conservative. And if the market stays the way the market has been, worst case scenario, you'll close more business and make more money. So with 4-to-1 ratio on the listing side and a 3-to-1 ratio on the buyer side, which means you'll meet with, on the list side, you have to speak to 4 people in order to list 2 properties. And of the 2 properties you list, 1 of them will sell. That's the 4-to-1 ratio. And on the buyer side, you'll speak to 3 people to get contracts with 2 of them, and of the 2, 1 of them will get to closing. So if you blend those 2 things together, you get 3.5, right, to 1. So we're going to multiply the 13 by 3.5. And when you multiply the 13 by 3.5 and round up, you get 46, right? And that's 46 appointments in 1 year. So now I want you to take the 46 appointments in 1 year and divide it. Boy, that's terrible. The 40, oh my stars. Here we go. 46 appointments in 1 year, and divide it by the number of weeks in a year that you work. Now, for most of you, I would encourage you to use 48. That gives you time around the holidays that you're not really working. It gives you a couple of weeks vacation. If you know your number is lower, then use 40 or 38 if you know that that's the number you work. If you work more than 48 weeks a year, I would encourage you to take a look at your calendar and recognize that work is not everything and you have to have a life as well, right? So we're going to use 48, divide 46 by 48, and what you get when you round up, because you can't have less than 1 appointment, is 1. In this scenario, right, you get 1. You actually get a fraction, but you're going to round up to 1. If you're doing this math and you get a number like 1.4 or 1.7, you're always going to round up. I know mathematically under 5 you were taught to round down. I'm going to encourage you to always round up. And so what this formula says is that in order to earn $130,000 in gross commission income, you need to focus on 1 appointment a week.
So
Questions on that?
it's just an appointment, right? There's no guarantee or anything.
So let's talk about that. Now let me get out of this screen. Who asked that question? Was that Daniel? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about an appointment, here's what I mean when I say an appointment. I mean a new buyer that you're having a conversation with, or a new seller that you're having a conversation with. I don't mean that I met Connie on Sunday and took her out to see 3 houses, and then I see her again on Friday and take her out to see 3 more houses. That's not 2 appointments, unless Connie's going to buy 2 houses, right? She was new to me on Sunday, so there was a 1 new appointment. If I need 2 new appointments a week, well, I have to find somebody else new to create an appointment with. buyer or seller, I'm okay either way. Does that make sense though?
Yeah.
Right? So it's new appointments. Let me ask you this question. For those of you who have chosen to obtain a real estate license, to work real estate full-time, to create an income for yourselves and grow a business, does one new appointment a week sound doable to you?
Yes.
Right? It does. I would agree with that. And as we move forward this week and start, because Wednesday we're going to start on source of business. What you'll start to see is there are enough sources of business that if you will commit to diving in consistently to find new business, again, oh, I took it off my screen, off my board, to lead generate and lead convert at a high level and make that your one thing, one new appointment a week is doable. Now, if your ambitions are for more than that $100,000, again, I encourage you to, and it's listed on pages 23 through 25, or 23 through 26. I encourage you to run those numbers again and again and see what that looks like for you. Run them backwards. If all of a sudden you end up with one appointment every other week, and you run the numbers backwards, what does that do to your income? Right? We talked before about being accountable. As a business owner, I want you to recognize that you own a business, and for many of you, you are also its sole employee. So you have to wear two hats. And too many real estate agents wear the hat of real estate agent, and they forget about their CEO hat. They forget to wear the CEO hat of their business. The CEO needs to have some clarity with the employee around what the expectations are, and then hold the employee accountable for those appointments. Remember that's you get to determine the number of appointments that you're going to commit to each week. You also get to determine how you're going to hold yourself accountable to hitting those appointments each week. If you choose to give yourself a pass on those appointments each week, that's okay. I just want to make sure that you recognize that that decision has consequences on your income. Right? You get to make the choice. It's funny when I coach real estate agents and they ask me to hold them accountable to certain metrics, and then I do, sometimes they get mad at me because they think I'm mean. And my conversation with them is, look, you don't owe me anything. You asked me to hold you accountable to a certain level of achievement. I'm simply asking you a question or a series of questions to help you self-discover whether or not you're meeting or exceeding or falling short of that standard that you asked me to hold you accountable to. If it doesn't feel good, that's only because I'm taking a firmer stand for your income at present than you are. And when I take a firmer stand for your income than you will, well, it makes you feel ooky. It makes you think I'm mean. P.S. I'm more than happy to be that guy. If you don't have somebody in your world to make sure that you're being held accountable to the things that you say you want to do, I would find somebody in your world. While we're together, every Monday, I'm going to ask you the question, once you determine by Wednesday how many new appointments you need each week to create the income that you desire in real estate, I'm going to ask you each Monday to kind of report to the group how many you succeeded in obtaining. not because I'm mean, but because I want to make sure that we can help each other. The whole idea of us spending time together is for those of you who are brand new to the industry to come out of this with business and perhaps even a closing. For those of you who are not new to the business, I want you to come out of the next 4 weeks, not just with more knowledge, but with new opportunities, new leads, and perhaps even a couple of closings booked. There's the whiteboard again. I'll leave it up just for a smidge. Any questions on what we're talking about?
If you do 2 appointments a week, that'll just double that, right?
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Oh yeah, Fernando has a good idea. If you well, take a picture of it, of your screen, if you want to have it for later.
That was the plan.
There you go. Yeah, so 200,000 to you grossed up is going to be 30, 24, 48. Yeah, it's about double. It's about double. Yep.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we come up with our goal, right, for what we want to make in a year, should we play it safe? Should we, should we kind of try achieve something that, I don't want to say is impossible, but it's a stretch? Like, how do we determine that?
So great question. Well, what I would do if I were you is, if this is your first year in the business and you have nothing to kind of base anything on, I would do one of two things. I would use, number one, I would use just a generic number to just start setting some targets. You saw that when we used $100,000 income to you, it worked out to almost exactly 1 appointment a week. Well, here's the thing. People who coach with me, there is no version of goals that are less than 1 appointment a week, right? So that's kind of like a minimum standard in my world. And so if you use $100,000, it's just that 1 appointment a week, and depending on your average sale price and your conversion rates, that will bring you either about that amount or perhaps some more. Or, again, if you have nothing to base this on, there are some of you who are choosing to move themselves into real estate who need to make money. I was one of those people. When I first started in real estate, I didn't have the luxury of someone else to pay all the bills. Like, my income was important in my house. And so it needed to be there. I couldn't spend 6 to 12 months kind of trying to figure it out and hoping that I could make a living. I had 6 months to start making enough money that I could run my household, or I would need to go get a real job, quote unquote. Right? And so the other thought that I have, Raquel, is if that $100,000 just kind of as a round number doesn't float your boat, well, then you could decide to figure out, look, this is what I want and need from my business. And it doesn't matter to me that I'm deciding that this is year 1 or year 2 or year 17. This is what I want and need from my business. These are the goals I'm going to set. And now I'm going to build a plan around hitting them. It drives me, I'm going to get there in a second, Martine. It drives me up a tree when I hear people come to me and say, well, somebody told me that, you expect to make no money in the first year in real estate. Expect to make no money. It takes 3 years to really get ramped up. Guys, I'm going to tell you what, it only takes that much time if you choose to have it take that much time. This is a business like any other business. If you focus on the right activities, business shows up. right? And even if you're not all that great at doing the do of the buy side and the list side, how many of you who are experienced agents on this call know people who make a good amount of money and are terrible at what they do? Yep, I know it. Yenny, I know you know them too. I know you didn't raise your hand, but I know you know them too, right? But that's my point, is that it's not necessarily about skill. It's about people who have figured out how to do the right activities and do them consistently to find and convert business. It's even better when you're good at it. It's even better when you've practiced and learned the skills that clients deserve you to have and bring to the table. I'm not saying don't bother with that. Trust me, that's not the message I'm looking to send. But my point is, it clearly there's an opportunity for you to focus on those first two, lead generation and lead conversion, and then build the rest as you go. Some of it is fake it till you make it. We're going to talk about that as we get into our script work. But some of this is fake it till you make it. And what I mean by that is, don't put people at risk. Don't answer questions that you don't know the answers to. Find out the answers. I'm not saying make it up as you go along. That's different. Fake it till you make it, I mean from a confidence perspective and from an experience perspective, because some of you don't have any experience. But that doesn't mean that you can't grow a successful real estate business, because everybody who has experience started out with none in this industry. Does that answer the question, Raquel?
Yes, thank you. Yes, perfectly.
You're welcome. Right, and because you're on the call, Raquel, I'm just going to use you as a quick example. Raquel's a perfect example of someone who was told that she couldn't achieve at a certain level and decided to just prove those people wrong anyway, and is achieving in her first full year of real estate at extraordinary levels. Right, so it's a matter of what you choose to do. The last thing I'm going to do is sit here and tell you that you can only make $50,000. You should only think that you can close one piece of business. You can only make $100,000. You can do whatever, you can choose whatever number you want, and then build a program and get the help you need to support it underneath. Go ahead, Martine.
So my question is, as we continue to grow our business currently, but looking ahead into 2021 to meet our financial goals, what does that look like to you? Like, how do you work it right now to end your year strong, but still produce leads for 2021?
Great question. So I'll answer it this way. And this is a little bit of a cop-out, because we're going to address much of this Wednesday and Friday. So and I know we're running short on time. So I'll end today with this conversation. And if any of you were thinking, this was terrible, I'm not coming back on Wednesday or Friday, well, then you're not going to have the tail end to the answer. I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger, just in case you were thinking of bailing, so you can come back on Wednesday and hear the end of it. So the answer to Martine's question from my perspective is this: you have about a month left to write business that will close in 2020. By the end of the first week or so, what's today, the 12th? By this time in November, most of what you write in terms of offers on properties that are accepted, after that moment in time, so you have 4 weeks or so to get things to close before the end of the year. Anything you write after a month from now is automatically Q1 income anyway, right? And so what I encourage you to do is spend the next 4 weeks challenging yourself to get at least, for those of you who are brand new in the industry and licensed, right? By the way, if you don't yet have your license, if you haven't yet passed your test, can you just type me your name in the chat box so I know who you are? Because I need to speak to you just for 2 minutes after we finish at 7 o'clock. So for those of you who are licensed, you need to find a way to write at least one piece of business in the next 4 weeks. That means as you're going through this Ignite course, you need to be searching for someone to do business with that you can put under agreement before we finish. That to me would be the goal. Let's not make it about learning. Let's make it about learning and writing business. So in the next 4 weeks, what one piece of business can you put under agreement so that at the very minimum you have a closing before the end of the year? For those of you who are brand new. For those of you who are not brand new, what I would encourage you to do is start building a plan. And again, we're following up on Wednesday and Friday about all the sources of business that we're going to help you create this plan with. Create a plan starting literally tonight to start attracting seller clients and attracting buyer clients. The more people that will hire you in the next 4 weeks, even if they don't write a piece of business that will close before the end of the year, you're now building your client pipeline so that as they start writing business around Thanksgiving or early December or maybe even into January, you're continuing to book business that will close now in the first quarter. So your January, February, and March, you don't have to continue to tighten your belt. You don't have to eat egg noodles and ketchup for dinner, right? There's actually income coming in to offset some of the expenses, right? Has anyone noticed that to run a real estate business, you actually write a whole bunch of checks and then a whole bunch of checks more, and then more people ask you for money before you've ever made a dime? Anybody notice that? It doesn't ever change, right? Those things that just continue to show up, right? And January is one of those months where you have some things to pay for the new year. So I would do everything in my power to build as big a client pipeline as you possibly can over the course of the next 4 weeks, whether or not they write business to close before the end of the year or not. Because you'll be setting yourselves up for income in the first quarter of 2021. Now, in the interim, maybe the short-term income version, right? Rentals, you don't normally hear me speak too much about rentals, just PS. And it's because they take a lot of your time and they don't have as much of a payday as I would prefer. If you're going to spend that amount of time, I'd like your payday to be more about the payday that an actual sale creates for you. However, in the interim, if you're looking and saying, okay, all of my activities that I'm going to focus on in the next 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks are going to start showing up as income in January and February, because that's real. For most of you, that's just real. I'm not going to create a fiction for you. For most of you, your next opportunity for a paycheck based on where you are today is likely early January if you're really focused on activities and grabbing those opportunities that are out there, right? Maybe mid to end December, but most of you early January. And so if you need income in between, rentals are a great way to kind of leap in and create some short-term income opportunities for you to kind of get you through. That's how I look at rentals. Martine, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I look
You're
forward
welcome.
to the rest.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the other piece of that, or at least another piece of that. I would also, as I said earlier in our time together, focus on listings. Focus on finding sellers who need to sell. Focus on a listing inventory, because if you're going to focus on anything in the course of the next 4 to 6, 8 weeks, you might as well focus on the side of the business that will bring you more business, right? Listings bring you more listings and buyers. Buyers typically bring you a closing, right? So buyers are the unleveraged side of the business. There's so much more opportunity on the list side of the business. So if you have to choose, I would focus on the listings, because here's what I know is real. For most of you, as you're going through and processing your lead generation, your lead conversion, on the listing side, you won't be able to help having buyers fall out of the sky and into your lap, right? When you're searching for listings, buyers show up. When you're searching for buyers, listings oftentimes don't show up. So search for the listings. You may find a listing or 2 or 12, and search for the buyers will show up as well. Okay, so there's a bunch more of you that are not licensed in Connecticut than I thought. So here's what we're going to do. Who do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 of you. Okay. So if the 5 of you could just stay on, I want to just mention something quickly to you guys, so that we don't have to do it on Wednesday. Guys, I'm going to end there for the evening. We didn't get quite as far as I had hoped. However, no fear. We're going to jump back in and talk about scripts to start off Wednesday. I will ask you to take a look at that big why exercise that I gave you as homework. I'll also ask you to rerun the numbers and come to clarity around what you want from your business in the next 12 months. And by the way, that doesn't start in January. I'm not looking for you to build a 12-month plan starting January 1st. I want you to build a 12-month plan starting October 12th. I want you to start it right now. What does the next 12 months hold for you such that you can create the income that you desire? Get clarity around what that number is, and get clarity around your appointment number. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on Wednesday as well. We will then move into, oh, Sydney's got dinner. I'm coming to your house. That looks good. We're going to get some clarity around database and working with the people who already know you, like you, and trust you, because they're already predisposed to do business with you. And then move into other sources of business, open houses, social media, FSBOs and expireds, telephone prospecting, open houses, you name it. We're going to hit them all, right? And that's going to be Wednesday and Friday. Just a reminder, Wednesday and Friday, we are not 5 to 7. We are 4 to 6 on Wednesdays and Fridays, right? I know that's a little confusing, and I apologize for that. I just had a conflict at 4 o'clock on Mondays, but didn't want to change the schedule. So Mondays, we're 5 to 7. Wednesdays and Fridays, we are 4 to 6. The good news is, on Friday, you don't have to sit with me till 7 o'clock in the evening. You can be done by 6 and out. Woohoo! All right, anything else before we finish? All right, guys, it was a pleasure to spend time with you. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. For those of you who I asked to just hang out, if you could just stay for a second. For those of you who I did not, I will see you on Wednesday.
Thanks, Rick.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you, and I think that's Effie, Chelsea, Seth, Robbie, and Daniel. Okay. Robbie, are you still waiting for a test date?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my application to process.
Holy Christmas. Okay. I am sorry about that. My goodness.
That's okay, man.
You've been waiting a long time. That's crazy. I wish I had some magic powers with PSI. But and I think if I remember, the last time you were in Ignite, you had just started your classes, right?
Yeah, I did. So I finished classes, I think September 17th was my last class. So
All right. Okay, it's still a month, which is kind of nuts. So for those of you who don't yet have a Connecticut license, you can do one of two things. If you're licensed in another state and you want to prospect or do some of the activities that we're talking about in the state you're licensed in, and if you've moved here now, I'm not sure where each of you are in your path and what's bringing you to the Connecticut side of things. But if you've already moved here and you want to kind of do some of the work in the state you're currently licensed in, and then just refer the business back to somebody in that state, you could certainly do that to just kind of stay current. Or by the time you have your Connecticut license, some of those exercises you may be able to jump back into. Or if in fact you don't have a license at all, right? It looks like 3 of you, I have 2 in Massachusetts and 1 in New York. And then 2, Daniel, are you a brand new licensee?
Yeah, just finished my class. My last class is actually tomorrow.
Okay, great, excellent. So for those of you who are brand new, so Robbie and Daniel, what I would encourage you to do is do, Robbie, what we talked about in our last course, and that in the last session of this, and that was you have an opportunity to do some of this kind of as a coming soon type thing, right? So when we're talking about database, you can have conversations inside of your database with people who know you, like you, trust you, and are already predisposed to do business with you from the perspective of, hey, I am just about to be licensed to open a brand new powerful real estate firm. I wanted to give you a heads up in case you or anyone you knew might have a need for either buying, selling, or creating wealth by investing in real estate. So you can kind of do it like a coming soon. Instead of specific prospecting scripts, you can kind of work in that direction. What you guys can't do is, well, and that kind of goes for all 5 of you. What the 5 of you who are not currently licensed in Connecticut are unable to do are reach out to expireds or for sale by owners. You really can't host open houses without a Connecticut licensee. So there will be some things that without a Connecticut license you won't be able to plug into. However, again, for some of you who have, I'm not sure what the level of experience is for Seth and Chelsea and Effie, but if you're looking for additional experience with open houses and you can kind of pair up and host one with somebody or shadow somebody so that you're at least plugging in to see how it all works. If you're experienced and you've run them before, well, then you don't need to do that. Clearly, you certainly could if you wanted to. It doesn't work that much differently here than it does in the state where you have a license. So an open house is an open house is an open house for all intents and purposes. But I just wanted to be clear about some of the things I may say, go out and do this in the next 2 days. Without a Connecticut license, you may not have that opportunity. But as soon as you obtain one, you can go back and kind of grab that exercise and get it under your belt. Any questions, comments, concerns about that?
One quick question.
Yeah.
This may be more appropriate for Adonis. I'm doing my onboarding with him later this week. So I was licensed in Mass, just quicker turnaround time, less of a requirement. I'm not affiliated with anyone in Mass because I only just passed my test, but I do have someone in my network who might be looking to purchase a home. So is there any kind of affiliation or relationship between Keller Prestige and any of the Keller offices in Mass, or would that just be a referral that I'd have to make?
Yeah, it would basically be a referral. If the business is in Massachusetts, I don't know. We don't have any kind of sister arrangements with offices up there, and we don't have any agents in the office who are currently. I don't think we have any agents in the office who are currently licensed in both states, in both Massachusetts, who could maybe kind of be that person for you or with you up there.
Right.
So it would really just be a referral back. And
would that be the same case once the Connecticut license came through?
once the Connecticut license, well, yeah, if you're not going to do the business yourself in Massachusetts, you would refer
No, I
it to
mean,
somebody up there.
sorry, if I was, so once I'm set up in with my Connecticut license and onboarded 100% with Keller Prestige, would I then be able to do anything in Mass, or would it be the same arrangement? Because I'll have licenses in both states. I'd be affiliated with Keller Prestige through my
Right.
Connecticut license.
Right, and so the only requirement that you would have to have, and I'll have to double check this because I'm not 100% up on Massachusetts license law, but my guess is that you would have to affiliate with a broker in Massachusetts. I hold a Connecticut and a New York broker's license, so the New York side is easier to hold dual licenses and live in the same single brokerage. I do not hold a Massachusetts or Rhode Island broker's license. So in order for you to process Massachusetts-based business, you'd have to affiliate with a Massachusetts-based broker in order to get paid in Massachusetts.
But we can't affiliate with more than one brokerage at a time, right?
You can affiliate with one broker in each state. So you could have your affiliation here be us, and then I could help you investigate, depending on where in Massachusetts. I know a bunch of the people up in Massachusetts, so I could kind of help you figure out what made the best sense. The negative of that is if you're affiliating with a KW office up there and us down here, it's two different regions, it's two different states, it's two different market centers. You have two sets of fees, you have two different caps. You're paying because it's two different regions, so you're paying towards two different royalties, right? So it may just be simpler to just refer some of the business if you're really going to focus in down here, right? Instead of running through that whole thing. New York, like Effie, you're the New York licensee, right? Yes. Yeah. And so for you, it's simpler because we can hold your New York license and we can hold your Connecticut license if you so choose to have us do that. And then any business you process in either state all just funnels to the one cap, the one royalty, the one everything.
That's definitely my goal. I'm just having one additional hurdle because I'm an attorney in New York, and that's how I got my broker's license. So in order to I have an individual broker license, but I had to apply for an associate broker license and then transfer that to Keller Williams and then get a test date in Connecticut to take that portion.
Yes. Okay, got it. I didn't realize you were also an attorney. So yes, that makes sense. Excellent. Anything else, guys? Yes, Chelsea.
When you're talking about the open houses and kind of, I guess I come from the healthcare world, so I guess we call it shadowing. I don't know what that terminology is, but do you who do you think we would reach out to try to get that set up? Like, would we reach out to? I think I'm going to be onboarding with Maria.
Okay.
Like, is that who I would talk to, or Dan, or?
Yeah. So great question. So, and we're actually going to address this on either Wednesday or Friday whenever we cover open houses, because I do encourage any brand new licensee who wants to shadow. I use shadow as well, just PS.
Okay. I was like, I don't know if that's the right term.
to shadow an open house, to just kind of reach out to any of our agents who are hosting open houses and see if you can kind of be that fly on the wall.
Okay.
I think the answer to the question is, I think we publish a list of all the open houses each Friday, and it goes out.
Yeah.
But we need to just verify with the team leaders to make sure I'm right about that.
Okay. Yeah, I did receive it this past Friday, and I actually had said to my husband, "Oh, I would love to go be a fly on the wall in one of these," but I didn't want to just show up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, what I'll encourage everyone to do when we cover this a little later this week is look at that list that comes out and then just pick a house or pick a person or pick a whatever and just make that phone call to say, hey, I'm new to the office, and if you're new to the industry as well, you can just kind of let them know that. And I'd love to come and shadow you at an open house. Would you mind if I stopped in? 9.5 times out of 10. No one's going to say no to you. And if someone says no, don't take it personally. There's probably a reason, and just move on to the next person. Make sense? Awesome. All right, guys. Well, with that, Sydney's big plate of food made me hungry. So it's time to go eat dinner.
Thank
It's
you.
good. It's good to see you.
Thanks
Good
so
to meet
much.
some of you, and we'll see you on Wednesday at 4.
Looking forward to it.
All right,
Have a
take
good
care.
night. Bye bye.